Next, we will move to item number 23, which is the Kimsey, also known as Triangle Building, and case number 10, ZN 2020, and number 4, DA 2020. The presenter is Brian Clough, the principal planner.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Ortega and council members. This is Brian Clough with the city's current planning department. I'm going to give a quick overview of the Kimsey, case 10ZN 2020. Next slide, please. The applicant is requesting approval of a zoning district map amendment from our C2 DO district to our downtown multiple use type 2 with the plan block development overlay and the downtown overlay on a 3.87 acre site. It also includes a historic property overlay on 0.4 acres of that overall 3.87 acre site, along with a development plan for a mixed use development, including a 168 room hotel, 190 dwelling units, and a restaurant. The components of the application include a development plan, site development standards for the plan block development, a parking master plan, a historic preservation plan, and a development agreement. Next slide, please. The subject site highlighted in yellow here extends from Indian School Road up to 3rd Avenue and sits west of Scottsdale Road and east of Marshall Way. Next slide, please. Here's a closer look at the site, which is currently occupied by the Howard Johnson Hotel, the venue, which is no longer operating, and the Kimsey building in the southeast corner of the site, which is proposed to be preserved through the use of a historic property overlay. The surrounding area consists mainly of 1- and 2-story retail, service, and gallery shops that were constructed throughout the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, and there is a 3-story office building that borders the site to the east. Next slide, please. This is the zoning map showing the existing zoning on the property, which the C2 DO district. Next slide, please. And the requested zoning designation with the downtown multiple use type 2 in the plan block development and the downtown overlay. And then you can see on the lower right-hand side of the site there, the portion that also includes the historic property overlay. Next slide, please. The subject site is within the Old Town Character Area Plan, highlighted there relative to that plan. Next slide. And within that plan, this is the Old Town land use map, identifying it within the downtown multiple use area, shown in green and highlighted yellow. Next slide, please. And then the site relative to the Old Town development types, showing it in the blue area, which is a type 2 area. And I'll also note, you can see on the north, west, and a portion of the south property, it does border against type 1 areas. Next slide, please. This here is the proposed site plan for the development. The goal of the applicant's request is to redevelop the property with a mixed-use development that includes a 6-story hotel with 168 guest rooms and a 6-story residential building with 190 units. The building height and density was reduced by the applicant after Planning Commission recommendation from an initial proposal that was 7 stories and 230 dwelling units. Also, a component of the development plan is preservation of the 1961 2-story Kimsey building designed by Ralph Haver. The Kimsey building sits on approximately 0.4 acres at the southeast corner of the development plan. So you could see that existing building, which is proposed to remain there. The hotel building extends along the northern portion of the site, fronting on 3rd Avenue, with the residential building fronting on Indian School Road and wrapping around the Kimsey building to the north and east. A single parking structure with 1 level below grade and 1 level at grade runs across the majority of the site area underneath portions of the new building. Building setbacks will be provided along the street frontages consistent with the downtown ordinance requirements. And new shaded sidewalks will be constructed along the Indian School Road and 3rd Avenue site frontages. And there is a new landscape public sidewalk that will be provided along the eastern boundary of the site that would extend from East Indian School Road all the way to the sidewalk on 3rd Avenue. And this would be a new mid-block connection to provide more convenient pedestrian access from Indian School Road up to Craftsman Court north of the site. And to the right of the screen, you'll notice some parking numbers there. The applicant has provided a parking master plan for the development, which proposes a reduction in the required parking for the hotel use. The standard ordinance requirement for hotels of 1.25 spaces per room has shown to be more than what's actually needed for hotel developments. And the applicant's parking master plan demonstrates that a ratio of 0.8 spaces per room is more than enough to serve the hotel use. This is in line with industry trends and is consistent with recent approvals in the downtown area for other hotel developments. The applicant's proposing to meet and exceed the ordinance requirements for the residential units, while also providing guest parking for the residential units at a ratio of about 1 space per 4.6 units. Also included in these calculations is a 4,000 square foot restaurant space, which will be parked in accordance with the ordinance requirements for mixed-use development. So the summary there, generally 407 spaces required and 459 provided in accordance with the information provided in the parking master plan. Next slide, please. So here's a quick summary of some of the development standards and bonus development standards. So the building height allowed under the existing zoning is 36 feet. The building height allowed in the proposed downtown district with the plan block development overlay is 66 feet without bonuses as the base height, and up to 120 feet achievable with bonuses. The building height proposed is 76 feet, so that includes 10 feet of bonus building height. The density there allowed for the plan block development district is 50 dwelling units an acre without bonuses, and the density proposed is just under that at 49.1 dwelling units per acre with no bonuses requested. Next slide, please. The next few slides here, I'm going to show some of the building elevations. I'll defer to the applicant to go into further detail regarding the materials and design concepts. A couple items I do want to point out are the building massing and some of the proposed inclined step back planes, which as part of the site development standards associated with the plan block development do include some variation from the standard downtown requirements. So what we're looking at here is the residential building, the east elevation on the top and the west elevation on the south. So if you look at the top elevation, the left-hand side of the screen would be the frontage on Indian School Road. And the red line there is showing a building setback and an inclined step back plane with a ratio of 1:1, which means 1 foot of building height for every 1 foot of setback. And this is consistent with the requirements of the downtown plan without modification. Next slide, please. Here is the south building elevation for the residential on the top, and then the north building elevation on the bottom. So highlighted on the top are some of the inclined step back planes. And the red shows the typical downtown ordinance requirements. On the left-hand side is adjacent to the type 1 area, so that shows a 1:1 typical requirement, and the green line shows the proposed building step back plane of a 4:1 ratio, and then on the right hand side a 2:1 required and the same 4:1 ratio proposed there. And on the bottom are the similar ratios, just not highlighted. Next slide, please. And here is the hotel building elevations. So starting with the north elevation on the top, you can see the same lines shown on there. So the left-hand side on the top, it would be adjacent to that 3-story office building with the 4:1 ratio proposed. And then on the right-hand side of the north elevation is adjacent to the type 1 area. And you can see there the just barely encroaching in the 1:1 ratio, but within a 2:1 ratio. And then to the far right-hand side would be the building frontage adjacent to 3rd Avenue with a proposed step back at a 2nd level height, and then moving up to a more vertical plane after that. Next slide, please. This here is a landscape plan for the proposed development, showing just the southern portion of the site on the Indian School Road frontage. So this gives you an idea of some of the proposed landscaping that will be along that frontage, along with the sidewalk construction there. And there are stipulations included in the plan that are geared towards preserving the mature landscaping that's existing on Indian School Road. You can also see on the right-hand side the pedestrian connection that heads up north from Indian School up to 3rd Avenue. Next slide. And then this is the northern half of the site on the 3rd Avenue frontage. So you can see some of the pedestrian and landscape improvements there, and the pedestrian sidewalk continuing up on the eastern boundary of the property. Next slide. So as part of the zoning district map amendment, there is an associated development agreement to take care of a few items that are required with the plan block development agreement, as well as some additional items that have been added. So just a really quick summary to touch on some of these points that are in the development agreement. First of all is the bonus development standards. So I mentioned there's 10 feet of bonus building height to achieve the total of 76 feet. To achieve the requested bonus, the owner will be contributing approximately $131,000 into the city's downtown special improvement fund. And then a high efficiency parking facility will be provided in the site to maximize the number of stalls provided within the garage through application of an automated parking system. That's the specific details of that are included within the development agreement, as well as some performance requirements there. So these are related to the timing of the development. If the developer does not commence construction within 5 years of the effective date of the contract, the developer agrees that the zoning on the property would revert back to the zoning that was previously on the property, which would be the C2DO. However, the portion of the zoning that applies to the Kimsey building, including its historic property designation, would remain in place. Next, you see there the transfer of development rights. This is simply intended to allow future development of the hotel parcel or future subdivision of the hotel parcel from the residential parcel, and allows for development standards to be applied to the site as a whole rather than the individual parcels. And then the walkway license agreement you see there is related to that eastern boundary pedestrian connection that I mentioned, and this is simply to grant public access rights over that proposed pedestrian walkway along the east side of that development. And then lastly, a conservation easement. So in addition to the historic property zoning designation, there would be a historic conservation easement that would be provided as an additional encumbrance upon the property with the intent of preservation of the Kimsey building. Next slide, please. Some public participation. The city and applicant did notify all property owners within 750 feet of the site. Applicant hosted open house meetings, 2 meetings, one in March of 2020 and then another one in January of 2021. And I do know the applicant's been continuing with public outreach extensively over the last several months based on the comments that have been coming in from the public. We have received several letters and emails of support, as well as a petition of support for the proposed development, as well as several emails of opposition that we've received with concerns about building height, density, and traffic. Next slide, please. This has gone to a few other boards and commissions leading up to this point. So it went to our development review board for a recommendation on January 21st of this year and received a vote of 6-0 for approval. And the historic preservation recommended approval on the historic preservation plan on February 4th of this year with a vote of 6-0. And then Planning Commission recommended approval on February 10th with a vote of 5-1. Next slide, please. And that does conclude staff's presentation. So here again is just a summary of the action items related to the request this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant team is also available and has a presentation ready to go. Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, this is John Berry at 6750 East Camelback Road in Scottsdale. In the past, new development bulldozed significant historic buildings, but tonight, in a first for our city, you can change that. In this effort, we are privileged to be working with renowned Scottsdale architect and historian, Doug Sidnor, a 50-year resident of our community who helped found the Historic Preservation Commission and was the first chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. He has served our city for decades in nonprofit leadership roles. Doug?
Well, our story really begins over 110 years ago with the Kimsey family. This is William and Elizabeth Kimsey. They came to Scottsdale by way of Indiana during some early winters back in 1906, 1907. They then purchased property here, constructed 3 homes, and also planted a citrus orchard. They had 3 children, one of which is Mort. You see here in the lower right. He served on our first city council in 1951 and also served as our second mayor. Mort, along with his father, William, had many, many firsts in Scottsdale that we're continuing to benefit from that today. So in 1960, the family struck a long-term lease with the project property. They then hired architect Ralph Haver to design this commercial project, and it was constructed in 1962. Over the last number of months, we have been studying the body of Ralph Haver's architecture in Scottsdale, and we discovered he did, in fact, 15 projects and developments. Unfortunately, we lost 5 of those to demolition. So we have a very unique and rare opportunity this evening to save and rehabilitate this really fine commercial project done by Mr. Haver. We also researched into the context in terms of its architectural forms and styles and materiality. Here's an example of some of those materials that will definitely influence some of our final recommendations on the exterior palette for the new architecture. So we just wanted to, in summary, note that the Kimsey architecture is defined by an iconic mid-century modern masterpiece designed by one of Arizona's most respected architects, Ralph Haver, and in the 1962 Kimsey building. Its historic and character-defining features are directly reflected in the new residential and hotel architecture. These buildings are visually enhanced with many effective design strategies such as setbacks, step-backs, terraced forms, broken roof lines, cantilevered shade canopies, recessed balconies, and being visually softened with upper-level landscaping. This architecture is wrapped in a natural palette of materials found in the immediate area, such as masonry, wood accents, and warm colors. Exterior glass is minimized, which reflects our Sonoran desert environment, while introducing natural daylighting to the interiors. Materials will provide appealing textures, patterns, and a richness that is emblematic of Scottsdale's Old Town and the mid-century modern aesthetic. And I might note there is no chrome or reflective metal being used on the project. And also, please recall that all buildings will need to return to the DRB through their public hearing process.
Mayor and members of the council, we have continued to listen and collaborate with the community. We have reduced our density. We have reduced the heights of our buildings. We have introduced new step backs along 3rd Avenue and the west boundary of the site for the hotel. We have added parking and increased the ratio for residential guest parking from 1 guest space for every 8 residences to 1 guest space for every 3 residences. With our hotel parking, we are designating 25 employee parking spaces. In terms of pedestrian access, importantly, we've protected that very critical mid-block pedestrian public access in perpetuity. We are preserving the existing mature trees along Indian School Road, and we are required to prepare a construction management and mitigation plan to protect area businesses during construction. We must build as promised within 5 years or the zoning will revert. As staff pointed out, and very importantly, the historic preservation designation for the Kimsey building remains to ensure that that building is protected in perpetuity. Additionally, we are required to put up $1 million letter of credit in favor of the city to prevent the proverbial hole in the ground which occurred with another project which we were not involved with at the corner of Scottsdale Road and Camelback. Also, very importantly, no short-term rentals will be allowed in this project. Additionally, we created a 1,000 square foot Kimsey community room and gallery that has public access and public use. What does that look like? Well, it'll be located on the ground floor along Indian School with a very visible and accessible location. It will host events and activities for the community and for organizations, very high quality finishes, lighting and acoustics. It will feature permanent and rotating exhibits of the history of the Kimsey family in Scottsdale, along with Haver architecture, and there'll be rotating displays of the Scottsdale Historic Society's extensive and unfortunately infrequently seen archives. Now, what you see is an illustration of the height reduction in the hotel from when we last came before the Planning Commission. You will note that the 96-foot height is delineated in red, and today we are before you with a 76-foot request to top of mechanical. You will note that gray area is the area of the building mass that's been eliminated. Now, same with the residential. You can see the reduction in height from 96 feet, and that gray massing area below the red line is the area of the building that has been removed. Now, pedestrian circulation has been critical for our site planning. The pedestrian experience is important all over our community, but particularly in downtown. We have improved it and will improve it immensely. Now, we embrace and invite the pedestrian into and through the project. This is not a gated project. All of the landscaping trees that are planted are required to be mature trees. And as staff noted, along Indian School and along 3rd, there will be shade structures over these new and enhanced and shaded and landscaped wide sidewalks. And what are some of the benefits of this proposal? Well, obviously, and most importantly, the preservation of the former City Hall for our community. It celebrates our heritage, the Kimsey family, who's been involved in our town for over 112 years. It recognizes Mort Kimsey, who served on the first City Council in 1951 and as our second mayor in 1958. It's an investment of $150 million, a shot in the arm for this area. It supports our critical tourism industry with a 168-room boutique hotel that helps keep our taxes low and our quality of life high by supporting our tourism industry. It supports the small businesses in the area. It brings tourists and year-round, I want to stress that, year-round high-income residents to literally their front doors. Now, in terms of traffic, it will reduce the amount of traffic compared the development that could occur under the existing zoning today on these 3 parcels simply by going to the Development Review Board. No need to go to City Council. It also generates new direct revenue to the city. This isn't indirect or multiplied revenue. It is, for example, during the construction process, over $1.5 million of direct revenue into the city's coffers. And annually, it will generate almost $1.3 million in taxes. There is significant open space required on site when none is required under the downtown ordinance, and there will be a public art contribution of $870,000. In conclusion, while much has changed for our elected officials in Scottsdale since 1951, when Mort Kimsey served on our first city council and as our second mayor, some things remain the same. The mayor and council work hard finding that balance between the aspirations of our citizens while encouraging tourism and supporting a healthy environment for our businesses to succeed. We hope you believe this proposal honors that balance. We would respectfully request your approval, and we're happy to answer questions now or wait until after public testimony. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you. Before we start public comment, while the presentation and the applicant information is very fresh, does the council have any questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, I see one from Council Vice Mayor Janik.
And this can be either answered by staff or Mr. Berry. I noticed when I went through all the plans that the requirement for no more than 20% of the rooftop appurtenances, no more than 20% of the area be used for rooftop appurtenances. And I was curious if that is still in the plan, that you'll keep it at 20%. And then my second question is, how much of the structure will actually go up to the 76 feet? And how much of it will be between the 72 feet and the 76 feet? Thank you.
Mayor, Councilman Janik, this is John Barry. I'm happy to answer those questions because I think we have some updated information. I just note that this project, is real, and as a result of that, if this project is approved this evening, we want to move quickly. We have been spending time better engineering and understanding the details of the project, particularly the rooftop and the solar and mechanical equipment that will be on the rooftop. Now, some of these numbers might change a bit, but this is the most current. We are willing to accept these as the new numbers. We will do better than limiting the amount of the mechanical on the rooftop to 20%. In fact, based on our latest calculations, we can lower that to 18% of the rooftop. In other words, 82% of the roof will be at 72 feet in height. So we can lower that 20% to 18%. Councilwoman, you asked the question about how much of that rooftop will be at the 76 feet in height. I would note that actually, based on our latest calculations, none of the rooftop will be at 76 feet in height. We've been able to lop 1 foot off of that based on our latest engineering. So we would now be at 75 feet in height, not 76. Additionally, only 1.5%, let me say that again, only 1.5% of the entire rooftop will be at that 75 feet in height. So 98.5% of the roof will not be at the 75 feet. The balance of that 18% of the rooftop for mechanical will be predominantly solar, and that will be at a maximum height of 73 feet, while the top of the roof is at 72 feet. I know I threw out a lot of numbers. I'm happy to go through those again, but I hope that answered your question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Berry, I have several questions, and perhaps I can get a slide up on one of them. While we wait for that, I will commend the group on the work on the original Kimsey building, and also note that it will be fire sprinkler protected, so that will be a wonderful assurance. Leading into my questions, the development agreement calls for 25 dedicated employee parking spaces. They did not show up on your parking count. That's 25 spaces. And also there's a concession of 76 spaces with the study or so forth. So by the time you reconcile the so-called 17 extra spaces, it looks like there's a need for 84 spaces for this project. Can you help us understand how we can mitigate that, or how that wouldn't put pressure on the parking garage that we have in that area?
Mayor Ortega, members of the council, of course, if we could go back to sharing the screen for a moment. If we could go to slide number 80, please, Michelle. So I think this is the graphic that you all have been looking at in terms of the parking counts. And at the bottom, I think, Mayor, you see the excess stalls of 17 that you noted, and that we are required by the stipulations to provide 25 designated spots for the employees of the hotel. And I think one of the reasons that this is a bit confusing, and I apologize, this was prepared by engineers. If it had been prepared by lawyers, it would have been much more confusing. My apologies to Councilman Durham. But if you notice the line under residential, it says travel accommodations. The excess stalls of 17 is really just the residential stalls. So at the top, the title of the graphic is proposed downtown parking code, which is not the current parking code that's in place today, but the one that staff is vetting with the public currently. So we're looking at the proposed downtown parking code if the council adopts it in the form that staff is proposing. And this is just the residential numbers. So the residential numbers, we do have an excess of 17, and we are providing the proposed guest spaces at the rate of 1 for every 8 residences. So we're providing the 1 for every 8 residences plus an excess stalls of 17, which means we're at 1 space for 4.6 residences. So the line that says travel accommodations, that is not, those parking spots are not included in that calculation. The travel accommodations of 134 parking stalls is a separate number, not including the guest parking for the residential. And in that 134 spaces are the 25 spaces for the employees. So those are separate buckets. And I can understand why the graphic is confusing to the public, and I apologize for that. But those 25 public spaces or parking spaces for employees for the hotel are already taken into account and accounted for in that line called travel accommodations.
Thank you. When I looked at the travel accommodation, I thought the current code called for 210, and then that got reduced to 0.8 per your consultant. So there was 210 required. But again, I was looking at what the staff report indicates that the 210 was required for the travel accommodations. Is that correct, or was that a staff?
Mayor, members of the council, I'm happy to go through in some detail the parking master plan, which was submitted to staff. So applicants are permitted pursuant to the zoning ordinance and the parking code to submit a parking master plan that, based on data and studies, justifies a potential reduction in the amount of required hotel parking. So the transportation staff and the planning staff reviewed that analysis carefully, and although we believe that our data shows that a 0.65 is in fact more than enough to cover all of the requirements of the hotel, including employee parking, staff required us to move forward at a 0.8. Mayor, members of the council, I'd be happy to go through some of that data which justifies that number if you'd like me to do so, but I can also show you that if we could go to slide 89, please, Michelle. So this is a quote out of the City Council staff report dealing with this issue. And you can see it says rideshare, Uber, Lyft, and these other services and amenities have had a significant impact on hotel parking demand reduction. The parking demands required by the zoning ordinance do not reflect this shift in parking demand. The current parking demand is likely significantly lower. Again, I'm happy to go through. I've got a handful of slides to go through that analysis if it's the pleasure of the mayor and or the council.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. The last thing, I could point out is that the parking on site normally with the hotel ranges from $18 to $35 a night. So that's what is charged at the W charges $35 a night. The other Marriott charges $18. So that tends to drive the guests or users to surface parking and, of course, a parking garage. That's part of my point about how we can mitigate if it's totally a standalone. The other question I have, and it relates to the development agreement, where it points out that the Prop 207 is waived by the applicant with regards to density and those provisions in the with the taking or possible taking. And that's correct. I read that. However, there's another issue which with the conditional use permit at the venue property, the former Cajun House, right? And there's no mention of that as far as waiving the possible CUP Prop 207 as a possible taking and as a possible ask by this applicant or a subsequent applicant. Could you address that?
Mayor, certainly. Mayor, members of the council, the Prop 207 only becomes effective if this case is approved tonight. If this case is not approved tonight, then the use permit associated with the current venue is still in force. Although interestingly, I would note that that use permit may or may not be valid, since the required parking to be provided under the use permit for the venue, their parking agreement has terminated, so they don't have sufficient parking to park the use if this project were to not be approved this evening. We cannot exercise a Prop 207 waiver for that property owner until such time as this case is approved. If this case is approved tonight, then that Prop 207 waiver would take effect, and any redevelopment of the property that obviously would include the demolition of the venue would cover that potential for some type of action, of which there is highly unlikely to be any, but Prop 207 would cover that issue.
I just wonder if that's covered in the development agreement at the present time. I know that it covers the temporary construction period or the inaction. I think we should look at that a little closer. And then finally, and we will go to public comment, on the north-south pedestrian way on the east side, normally we would be requiring a 20-foot fire lane around the property, which you have at the alleyway on the west end. It's constricted because of where the Kimsey building is, but beyond that, it seems like there would need to be a fire lane there, and that's a minor issue, but we are looking at the site plan. So that concludes my questions.
Mayor,
go ahead.
If I could, just to address the fire lane issue briefly, and that is that your staff has looked at all of the fire and life safety issues associated with this project. They start early with this process, and they are very tenacious and very cognizant of the importance of ensuring that all life safety codes are complied with. And interestingly, this project has received the full approval and blessing of the fire department for its fire fighting capabilities and its life safety issues. So it not only complies with all of the fire code and building code requirements, but actually exceeds those. I would also just note that we've been working with your staff. The first fire review on this took place back in June of last year. And Michelle, on the code, could you hand me that section on the code for just a second on the fire code? So the fire code requires that if you have a sprinkler building, and you noted that early on in your comments, if you have a sprinkler building, which this would be, you have the ability to have a 300-foot hose run to fight a fire. And this particular site has a dimension on the east side of 415 feet, which means you've got access for a 300-foot long hose run from both 3rd Avenue and from Indian School Road for a total of 600 feet in length. So in addition to the access from all 3 sides of the property on that side, we more than exceed the requirements of the city's fire code, and the fire department has signed off on our fire and life safety plans. And they never, I don't know that they could or would cut a corner when it comes to fire and life safety.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. At this point, we will move on to public comment. There are 20 requests to speak, and staff will be managing the calls in. I would ask if we could please limit your comments as close to 2 minutes as possible, and I will turn it now over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor Ortega and members of council. This is Shane Stone with the City Manager's Office. Our first public comment will be coming from Ms. Kinshin. Ms. Kinshin, you should now be able to press *6 and begin your public comment.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. My name is Christy Lee Kinchin, and I live at 8701 East Valley Vista Drive. And I'm here tonight to ask for your support of the Kimsey project. I am a native to Arizona. I grew up in Scottsdale. I've attended many of our great public schools, and I'm currently a second-term City of Scottsdale Historic Preservation Commissioner. I need to mention I'm here today not in that official role, but as a resident of Scottsdale who is passionate about our city and preservation. I don't get paid by developers, and my soul won't let me be a sellout, despite what you might see from some anonymous meetings on the internet. Scottsdale is a dynamic city that doesn't need to be reimagined or changed to succeed. And as a city, we must establish the highest possible development standards and only entertain deviations from what is allowable under current zoning if there's a rare circumstance that warrants it. In my humble opinion, this project with its historic preservation and adaptive reuse of the Ralph Haver designed triangle building feels like one of those rare instances. Scottsdale is a mid-century city, but we have an opportunity to grow into our future while simultaneously respecting our past. I've been calling this project New Century Modern. This is the first time ever in our city's history that I'm aware of to have a building up for historic preservation designation with an adaptive reuse within a redevelopment project. And I think back to why I wanted to get involved with our city leadership and become a historic preservation commissioner in the first place. And it was because I was watching iconic places around Scottsdale that are part of my own life story and many others constantly torn down only to be replaced by uninspired vanilla boxes. If we keep erasing our past, we are just like any other city. And I wanted to make a difference and educate our leadership on why historic preservation is great for our local economy, in particular adaptive reuse. And here we are. We only have to look west to our neighbor, the city of Phoenix, to see how they handle historic preservation and adaptive reuse projects. They can see an old abandoned church and reimagine it as the next It Taco restaurant. They could see a cool old bank and turn it into the next new hot pizza spot in town. And residents and tourists celebrate these projects. And I love this quote from Saving Place. More than ever, cultural and natural assets form the basis for economic development in small communities. The greatest attractions from an economic growth in many of these towns are the quality of life, natural environment, historic legacy, and cultural context. Protecting need not be a limitation on development, rather it can be the basis for it. And cities that ignore their historic preservationists do not pay attention to the revitalization and economic development are almost certain to suffer financial losses. So preserving our historic character is vital to have an economic edge over other cities. And I love what I do for a living and how it ties into my role as a historic preservation commissioner. In my career, I've worked in residential real estate for the last 21 years.
Thank you, Ms. Kitchen. Wrap up.
Our next public...
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Next.
Our next public comment will be coming from Mr. Free. Mr. Free, you should now be able to press *6 on your device and begin your comment.
Hello, thank you. And hello, Mayor and City Council members. My name is David Free, and I'm at 4237 North Craftsman Court. I've been a resident of Old Town Scottsdale for 23 years. I've owned multiple businesses in Old Town. I've owned a building on Craftsman Court for the past 15 years, and I live less than a mile from the Kimsey project. To say I'm vested in this neighborhood would be an understatement. Our neighborhood has spoken loudly with hundreds of emails to the City Council, over 100 signatures on a petition supporting the Kimsey project, and we have made it clear that almost every surrounding property owner, business owner, and resident in our neighborhood favor this project. This is not a building height discussion for us. I wish we had the luxury to debate over 9 or 10 feet of building height with the opposition. However, the people who live, work, and invest in this neighborhood, this is a business survival discussion. The people attending this meeting tonight need to realize that our neighborhood is in desperate need of a lifeline. Our businesses are barely surviving. Our neighborhood is a mess as a result. It is sad to see what's happening down here. We have crime issues, homeless people moving in, and our neighborhood looks like a ghost town, not a Western town, during the non-tourist season. I can't believe I'm saying this about the center of Old Town Scottsdale, but it's a reality. We have a lifeline being thrown to us, and we can't miss our chance to grab it. If this project is lost, it's not just the loss of a hotel that will bring tens of thousands of people a year to our neighborhood and hundreds of residents who will be working, living, and spending their money in our neighborhood during the non-tourist season. It will be a loss of a lifeline that could save these small businesses and the livelihood of the people that work in them. Nobody loves this area more than the people from our neighborhood. We want good projects and we want to protect the history of Scottsdale, but also pave a clear path for a positive future. This is why I raised my hand to speak tonight. This is a good project that will help so many people thrive rather than just survive.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And our next public comment will be coming from Mr. Henninger. Mr. Henninger, you should now be able to press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
Mayor Ortega, members of City Council, I am Don Henninger, 8202 East Del Camino Drive. I'm also Executive Director of the Scottsdale Coalition of Today and Tomorrow. And I thank you for the chance to speak today in support of the Kimsey project. Once in a while, an opportunity occurs where two issues that seem to be on divergent tracks instead find themselves perfectly aligned. And the Kimsey project is exactly that. It's a project that respects the city's rich heritage while providing an investment option that will bolster the city's economy. A lot of hard work and study has gone into this project, and I hope you will move forward with this today without any more delays. As you know, it's already been approved unanimously by the Development Review Board and the Historic Preservation Commission, and it cleared the Planning Commission on a 5-1 vote. Public open houses have been held, in addition to individual stakeholder meetings where design changes were made with their input. And perhaps most important, the majority of nearby property owners support it as well. The fact is, downtown business owners need this. Many of them are hoping the city will allow high-quality projects like this that will bring more people downtown. A lot of business owners simply won't survive without this kind of activity. Like you just heard, they need a lifeline. The time for more delays is over. It's been through enough already. Many concessions already have been made with the city's approval. To delay this project any longer very possibly could jeopardize it. This is a unique chance for the city to revitalize this part of downtown with new housing and new hospitality while preserving an important part of Scottsdale's history. And I encourage you to approve this project today. Thank you for your time and for your service to our city.
And our next public comment will be coming from Ms. Warfield. Ms. Warfield, you should now be able to press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
And just a small reminder, you get 2 bells. So when you hear 2 bells, why? We really appreciate the comments. Thank you.
And Ms. Warfield, it's showing on my end that you are unmuted, but we are not hearing anything. Ms. Warfield, I'm going to place you. Oh, I pressed the mute button on you, Ms. Warfield, right as I began to hear you. So please press *6 again and begin your comment.
Okay, is that better?
I can hear you.
Hear
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Good grief. Hello, and thank you, City Council members. My name is Amanda Warfield, and I am a business owner of Warfield Hair Bar on Street, 4161 North Marshall Way, Suite 105. As an Old Town business owner who works less than 100 yards from the Kimsey Suite, I am a true stakeholder in this neighborhood. Old Town has the potential to become exponential, a uniquely walkable place to live, work, stay, and experience. That said, in order to reach its full potential, Old Town needs projects that create a reliable human presence. I personally have been doing hair in the area for 11 years. I decided to open a shop in this specific area because I could see the potential for immense growth and foot traffic. My small business relies on both pedestrian traffic and continual expansion of the area. We are a high-end hair, barbering, and nail service that thrives on walk-in clientele. The potential thousands of new clients that the Kimsey project would bring in and the potential thousands of new clients that the Kimsey project would bring in would heavily impact the heartbeat of my business. Additionally, this new project will allow for stability in year-round residents and visitors, which has a major result on surrounding businesses. I am aware that there are loud anti-development voices that oppose the Kimsey. Critically, those opinions are largely held in individuals who do not live in the area, do not employ hardworking Arizonans, are not a part of the Scottsdale economic engine. These people do not spend significant time in the neighborhood. Accordingly, they fail to see the underutilized buildings like the venue, create commercial dead zones, and attract a criminal element. The anti-Kimsey individuals rely on arguments against the project. However, their true motivation is a desire to maintain the status quo. They do not want my neighborhood to change, even though they do not live or work in Old Town. While there is nothing inherently wrong with nostalgia, it is not a compelling reason to prevent the economic and aesthetic success of my neighborhood. If we meet, I really appreciate your time, and I hope we don't listen to naysayers, and I hope that we push forward this project because it helps and benefits everyone. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And our next public comment will come from Mr. Norton. Mr. Norton, you should now be able to press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
Mayor Ortega and Vice Mayor Janik, City Council, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. The process of civil discussion about issues in our community is one of the most important things that keeps Scottsdale as vibrant as it has always been. As the first major project before a mostly new City Council, this project is watched with far more attention than any other new project ever deserves. Normally, the project is the focus of attention, and normally the project deserves all of the discussion. But this time, the real focus of attention is on our new mayor and our new City Council and what message you're about to send to the rest of the community. City Council's decision, whether it's a yay or a nay, is going to tell us loudly whether other property owners who want to move forward should do so, or they should just pack up their tents and wait for a new City Council to be elected. I really hope that the message sent is please go forward, because the Kimsey project parcel is not a parcel that should be protected. It is a parcel that should be dissected between that which should be preserved and that which should be rebuilt, because it's a block between the downtown area and the Arts District, and it could instead become a passageway and an energizer for those two areas. We save the best while we upgrade the worst. We link the Old Town Arts District to the best of the downtown area. We inject more consumers into the economy. We make that area vibrant. We make the business owners excited and happy about what's going on. We do that with significantly lower profile than throughout the rest of the city. There are 8 to 12-story buildings all around this parcel. So the many good reasons to say yes are obvious. The one good reason to say no is to send a message to the rest of the community that Scottsdale is closed for business. That's a really bad reason to deny the approval of this project.
Thank you, Mr.
for
Norton.
allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
And our next public comment will be coming from Ms. Haver. Ms. Haver, you should now be able to press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Joyce Haver. I live at 6419 North 31st Street in Phoenix, although I am in Scottsdale on a regular basis, and I've lived here my entire life. And I'm here tonight representing the Haver family, the sons, daughter-in-laws, and grandchildren of Ralph Haver. After listening to some of these comments, I'm going to be brief, but The economic development opportunities are vitally important for Old Town Scottsdale, and it has enormous potential. And the fact that you can mix in an economic development project while preserving a historic building by a very well-known architect who did many, many works here is a great opportunity for you, especially as a new city council. I didn't know that, but I am so much in favor of this. I so appreciate people taking the opportunity to try to preserve this historic building and also taking a new economic development project like this that is very important. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you'll pass this evening. Thank you.
And our next public comment will be coming from Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, you should now be able to press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
Hi, Mayor and Council. What we're looking at is history in progress. Around 100 years ago or so, this entire area was desert. Then someone came along and decided to start farming it. Then there were some dirt roads that were eventually paved. Shops were built. And I'm sure back then there were citizens complaining that they have to stop all this crazy growth going on around here at that point. More buildings were built and downtown started to flourish. That was about 50 some odd years ago. But right now it's about outgrown itself, and those old buildings are out of date. They're considerably out of code, and many have become derelict. This describes the whole 50% of this parcel that the Kimsey project is on. And I've been on Craftsman Court for about 22 years. I own the building, I own my business, and my residence is here on Craftsman Court. And I have seen numerous, just dozens of businesses go out of business every year down at the south end of my street because nothing has been really occupied down there. This project is unbelievable. The board, the council has done a great job of pushing it, and it's a win-win for everybody. And this whole quadrant just needs something that we haven't seen in 40 or 50 years in this neighborhood. This little quadrant's been stagnant. I think it's an amazing project. I am humbled by the way all of the building owners and business owners around here in the last few weeks have come together to voice our opinion. So the mayor and council knows how strongly we stand together with all of this. And I hope that we are listened to, and I hope you vote yes on this project. Thank you for your time.
And our next public comment will be coming from Ms. Wilson. Ms. Wilson, you should now be able to press *6 on your device to begin your public comment.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Wilson, and I own a luxury furniture showroom in downtown Scottsdale at 4147 North Goldwater Boulevard, less than 200 yards from the Kimsey site. I also live in downtown Scottsdale at 6815 East Camelback Road. I'm an Arizona native and in favor of the Kimsey development. It's very exciting to see progressive architecture and mixed use that will allow Scottsdale to be a more walkable city. It will also create meaningful energy that will materially improve my business and the surrounding businesses, as well as appeal to the neighborhood. And that's it. Thank you.
And our next public comment will come from Mr. Plato. Mr. Plato, you should now be able to press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
Hi, my name is Tommy Plato, and I am a restaurant owner and property owner at 4166 North Scottsdale Road. I am one of the closest buildings to the Kimsey project, and I'm here to voice my support, and I appreciate everybody who's commented so far in support of this project, and I am also in support of this project due to a variety of factors, but one of the most significant reasons is that it's actually a conscious development. And the developers have done a good job in tying all things together with the landscaping, with the height, with everything that they've put forward. There's a real effort to actually, preserve Scottsdale for what beauty it does bring in the architecture that is here, and also add value in a significant way with a mixed use of the apartments and also the the hotel. I think it'll add a variety of revenue for the city. And also, one of the biggest things is I think if anybody votes no, you're actually voting no against small business, because the small businesses in this area are significant. There's primarily small business owners in this quadrant, which we like to consider the heart of Scottsdale. And it is the last kind of quadrant that connects everything that has not seen any development in the last 50 years. And we need it. And it is important that you guys vote this yes, because these small business owners are hurting, and we definitely need some sort of shot in the arm, and this will provide that for us. And I really appreciate the city council's time and the mayor and vice mayor, and thank you so much for hearing my voice.
And our next public comment will come from Ms. Davis. Ms. Davis, you should now be able to press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
Hi, my name is Andrea Davis. Thank you so much, Mayor and council members, for hearing my voice today. I reside at 9174 East Conquistadores Drive, Scottsdale, Arizona. I've been a resident for over 28 years. I've lived in Old Town, Scottsdale, Middle Scottsdale, and North Scottsdale. I am very much in favor of this project. The reasons I support it is that it revitalizes a tired, old, neglected corner of Old Town Scottsdale. Most importantly, it supports and revitalizes many of the small businesses down there that desperately need the foot traffic all year round. I absolutely am awestruck with how the architect took the historic triangular Kimsey building and incorporated it into the project. And this will be an icon for generations to come. Architecturally, it's a stunning project. It's lushly landscaped. And I think what impresses me most is how the developers they really listened and heard what the local business owners had to say, what the city recommended, and what the residents were looking for in that part of the area. So again, I do hope that you've heard all of the voices that are in support of the project and that you vote yes on this. Thank you so much.
And our next public comment will be coming from Ms. King. Ms. King, you should now be able to press *6 on your device and begin your public comment. Ms. King, on my end, it is showing up that you are still muted. Please press *6 to unmute yourself and begin your public comment.
All right, do you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Thank you.
Fantastic. Good evening, Mayor Ortega and City Council. My name is Allison King, and I live at 4624 North 11th Place in Phoenix, but I was born and raised in Scottsdale on Red Wing Road. And I'm a professor of design history and the founder of modernphoenix.net and ralphaver.com. And I'm speaking to you tonight in support of the Kimsey project. I'm a product of Scottsdale school system, and Scottsdale Civic Center Plaza played a central role in my artistic development. Our churches and our schools and our civic places have instilled in me a love for modern architecture. And this city has really indelibly molded who I am, because places have that power. I've spent the last 18 years researching and publishing content about modern architecture in Arizona and sharing it on the global stage. Many have claimed that this endeavor is responsible for putting Scottsdale and Phoenix on the map as a destination for heritage tourism in mid-century modern architecture. But I can't take all the credit, because here's what gave me hope that the status on the national stage could be accomplished. It was a presentation I attended 16 years ago by former Scottsdale HP Commissioner Duddy Abel and Grady Gamage Jr. And they built a case for the preservation of the architecture of Ralph Haver AIA. 16 years ago. I was captivated. And since then, I've become Ralph Haver's authorized biographer, digging deep into his catalog of work, authenticating buildings like the Kimsey, and drawing out the stories so citizens can connect with their built environment and the characters of history. And as Gerd so eloquently shared earlier tonight in his update, arts and culture are central to Scottsdale's identity, and that includes architecture. And I can't wait to host my first event at the Kimsey. Haver and Nunn's award-winning masterworks like the First Federal Savings and Loan on the site of Fashion Square and the Seneca Pre-Theater were ravaged by lack of foresight into their future. And we have an opportunity to amend that here with examination of the Kimsey property. This new development proposes a commercial and cultural hub that could serve as a model for how to do preservation right, in harmony with its environment and respect to the people that live, work, and play here. And, you know, just 2 years ago, the Kimsey building was on the chopping block. Can you even imagine Indian School Road without it? But through the sensitive imagination of the designers and development teams, they found a way to make things right with a compatible plan and some revisions that addressed many citizens' concerns. So I urge you to support historic preservation of this property and forge a way forward for the past and present needs to inspire a new generation. Your people have spoken tonight. I see a lot of support, so let's do something historic together. Thank you.
And our next public comment will be coming from Ms. Diamond. Ms. Diamond, please press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
Hi there, my name is Susie Diamond. I am a small business owner on 7084 East 5th Avenue. I wanted to voice my support for the Kimsey project. Being a small business owner, I have a store in Old Town and also in North Scottsdale at the Scottsdale Quarter. I'm getting tired of all of my customers at Scottsdale Quarter telling me that they don't even go to Old Town and they won't even take their family and friends there when they visit because of the way that it's deteriorated. And there is so much potential there, and the Kimsey project will bring us that year-round foot traffic that I do have in my other location that thrives pretty much year-round. I know that the people opposing the project are uncomfortable with change. Nobody understands that more than I, as a 40-something who left my corporate job and put my whole life into my small business just in the last couple of years. I get it that it's scary, but just like I've thrived in the last 2 years, I know that Old Town will thrive as well with the Kimsey project. So I just wanted to voice my support, and I hope we can make it happen.
And our next public comment will be coming from Mr. Hugus. Mr. Hugus, please press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
Hello, City Council. My name is Brent Hugus, and I am the president and owner of Eggersman Studio Scottsdale, located at 4161 North Marshall Way at the corner of 3rd Ave and Marshall. And I am in support of the proposed Kimsey project. We chose Old Town as our showroom location about 3 years ago, which is crazy to think. Time has really flown by. One of the major reasons for selecting Old Town was because of the future development that we had learned about at the time from our real estate broker. We were very excited about the potential growth that Old Town had to offer and wanted to be a part of it. After experiencing the last couple of years and seeing the pushback these projects have had, it's making us second guess our decision. Projects like the Kimsey project will help Old Town reach its full potential to become exceptional, a uniquely walkable place to live, work, stay, and experience. We need more projects like this. Vote yes. Bring a human presence to Old Town Scottsdale and deliver to the true stakeholders like myself the opportunity to thrive. Thank you for your consideration.
And our next public comment will be coming from Mr. Hainsworth. Mr. Hainsworth, please press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
Good evening, Mayor Ortega and City Council members, and thank you for your time. My name is Eric Hainsworth. I'm a Scottsdale resident at 1119 North 71st Street. My wife and I own a small business called Hainsworth & Company Salon. We are a full-service hair salon that has been in business since 2017. We have experienced amazing growth in our 4 years, and we want to continue that growth, so we are in the process of moving our hair salon to the heart of Old Town Scottsdale at 4147 North Goldwater Boulevard, just around the corner from the proposed Kimsey project. As I mentioned, we are moving our hair salon to Old Town, and I cannot begin to stress how massive of an impact this project would have on our business growth. 40,000 plus rooms a night a year and 230 condos would bring unimaginable growth to our walk-in business and blow-dry concepts. The events that would take place at the proposed project would also heavily increase our appointment-based business. My wife and I are investing at least the next 10 plus years of our life and small business into the area and would love nothing more than to see this project approved to help our small business and the other small businesses around us succeed. I urge you to please think about the jobs and financial security this project would bring to the business owners, employees of Old Town Scottsdale. Thank you for your time and your service.
And our next public comment will be coming from Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander, please press *6 to begin your public comment.
Hi, this is Jason Alexander. I am an 11-year resident of Scottsdale. My wife, my 2 daughters are also 11-year residents of Scottsdale. All 4 of us support the Kimsey development. Our goals and our future as a family are premised on living in a vibrant city with a thriving economy. We have no ties whatsoever to development or real estate, just the opposite. My wife and I are the quintessential 21st century knowledge workers who can work anywhere. We chose to move to Scottsdale 11 years ago because we wanted to be close to corporate headquarters and booming high-tech companies, to raise our kids around great schools in a sophisticated small city that balances density and history with open spaces. We want Scottsdale to grow and move forward, so we continue to have jobs and amenities, shopping, arts, culture, parks and restaurants, and our home values continue to appreciate. We love the tapestry of downtown. On Easter, my family rode our bikes from North Scottsdale for lunch at Farm and Craft, right near Scottsdale and Camelback Roads. Downtown's diverse, bustling urban environment is unique to the Valley, and the Kimsey will support the kind of city we want to live in, the kind of downtown we want to visit. The economic prosperity that residents want, all residents, no matter where they live in the city, is heavily invested in the success of our downtown. The height should not concern residents in North Scottsdale. I mean, we can run to the top of Pinnacle Peak and won't be able to see the Kimsey. The immediate neighbors, the immediate businesses support it. It's an economic boom for the city. I urge you all to vote yes. Thank you for your time.
Mayor Ortega and members of council, that concludes public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much for managing that and for all the comments as well. Do we have any questions at this time?
I'm sorry, Mayor. This is John Barry. I think I'm entitled to 5 minutes of comment based on the speakers. That's.
Oh yes. Yeah, go ahead and comment. I was going to ask the staff or applicant, so go ahead.
I apologize for the interruption, Mayor. Mayor, members of the council, I have one additional public comment I'd just like to read into the record before I make some comments on the speakers. This is an email you received today and it's dated yesterday. Dear Mayor and council members, I'm the Area Vice President of Lodging Development for Marriott International. Marriott has a long-standing relationship with PEG Development, and I'm thrilled to be a part of another successful project with this company. I am pleased to tell you that this boutique-like hotel will be an AC Hotel by Marriott, a curated upscale hotel. The AC Hotel brand is a classically designed, locally influenced hotel that will bring both business and recreational travelers to the heart of Old Town Scottsdale. Signed, Melissa Gonzalez, Vice President. Mayor and members of the council, we're certainly gratified by the far-reaching, geographically diverse support for the effort by my client to save the Kimsey building. But I'd really like to focus my thoughts on the speakers and one group of speakers in particular, and they are the neighbors in the neighborhood most impacted by your decision tonight. As one speaker said, they live there, they work there, and for many, their life savings and hope for the future are invested there. You heard their passion for their neighborhood, their pride in their neighborhood, and yes, their fear for the future of their neighborhood. Now, the opposition in their emailed comments stress they do not want the character of this neighborhood to change, leave it the same, or even go back in time. Now, is this proposal a positive or a negative for the character of this area? It seems from the speakers that the answer is tied to whether you are a neighbor or not. The closest neighbors want change. They are pleading for change. No one better understands the character of this area than these neighbors who daily experience the changing character of their neighborhood. A few images provided by the neighbors highlight what they are dealing with. I think we need to share the screen if we could. I apologize. That would be number 24. So graffiti is intruding into the area. Here are just some examples of police activity, the Howard Johnson's Motel in the last 6 months. And immediately behind the neighbors in the city's 3rd Avenue public parking garage is a homeless camp. Now, these neighbors have also provided to you and emailed to you a map that shows the support around the area for the proposed project. Now, there are 340, as of today, 340 emails and petition signatures that have been submitted to the city. As you heard from these neighbors cannot wait for the character of this area to change. They cannot wait longer to see if their dreams and life savings and retirement are destroyed while they wait for even more city studies. Quite simply, these neighbors cannot wait for you to approve this $150 million private sector economic lifeline. You heard them. They say the time for action is now, tonight. We thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. At this point, we will. I would entertain a motion. Then we could have discussion on the motion to keep things in the correct pattern. I see Council Member Milhaven and then Caputi.
So, Mayor, I'll go ahead and make that motion then. I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 4491. Adopt resolution number 12090, declaring the document titled Kimsey Development Plan to be a public record. Adopt resolution number 12095, declaring the document titled Kimsey Building Historic Preservation Plan and Design Guidelines a public record. And adopt resolution number 12094, authorizing development agreement number 2021-025 COS with PEG Phoenix Indian School, LLC.
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Caputi. I do believe I heard, did you want to speak to your second and then we'll open it up?
Councilwoman Milhaven, did you want to speak to your motion?
Oh.
Sure. I was going to wait for some discussion, but
Yeah.
sure, I'll open it up since I made the motion. As I was listening to the speakers, I was thinking about my family came here and used to go to the Farrell's ice cream parlor across the street from the Kimsey building in the early 70s. It was, for those of you who weren't there then, it was a 1890s style ice cream parlor where you had to go there for your birthday for free ice cream. Right? Betty's nodding. She remembers. And a lot has changed since the early 70s when we all went there. And our downtown was a regional destination shop. But then Los Arcos Mall peeled off some of that business. And so we know Fiesta Mall then peeled off business from Los Arcos Mall, and that went down. And Fashion Square was built and took some more business away from our downtown. And so what was once vibrant and thriving no longer became a destination shopping center regionally. And then we built the resorts in the 70s, and resorts became self-contained. Their goal was to keep tourists in their resorts, and so that then impacted the traffic downtown. And we've heard in recent years a lot of the small business owners talking about, well, why don't the resorts send more businesses here? And I think we've heard from the folks that live nearby, and I completely agree the impact on the neighbors, though I think we need to listen to those voices even more closely than others have said how important this is to the economic viability of this part of town. And then I'm also thinking about my office has been in this part of our downtown for almost 30 years. And I've seen and actually on 3rd Avenue on the other side of Scottsdale Road. And so I know how challenged this part of our community is. And so it's about having more people living and staying in downtown. And I think this kind of a resort that's integral to downtown is exactly what we need. And so I'm excited about this project. I hope my colleagues are as well. It does sadden me a bit, though, that we took some height off of the project. I know that some of my colleagues were uncomfortable with 96 feet, but what I would point out, too, is at the current 76 feet, it's about half the size of the waterfront towers. And as I look at some of the development that we've done in our downtown, I think something we can be really proud of is what those waterfront towers did for developing that south side of Scottsdale Road, that allowed for the extension of the mall, that supports all of that beautiful development around the canal. And so looking at the waterfront towers at 150 feet, if we took 2 stories off of it, would it be aesthetically more pleasing? I don't think so. But its impact wouldn't be nearly as dramatic. And so at 76 feet, it's half of the size. At 96 feet, it's only 2 more stories. And so I think that at 96 feet, it would be even more impactful to our downtown than it is at 76 feet. So I'm sorry that we took the 20 feet off. I'd love to put it back. But if my colleagues don't see the wisdom in that, then I certainly support the proposal that's at the table. I think it's just great for our downtown and a real shot in the arm. So thank you.
Councilwoman Caputi.
Thank you, Mayor. So people are always saying they're not against growth. They want quality growth that respects our past while moving us into the future. We want projects that have a great amount of outreach, where we give the residents time for comments, where we are able to make improvements, and projects that have community benefit. We want projects that are contextually appropriate for the neighborhoods that they're in, balance the needs of all the stakeholders, and are wanted by most of the immediate neighbors. Well, here is that project. We need this project, and I think we need it now to help the struggling businesses downtown. Is there any way I can get, I had asked that there be a slide put up. If not, I can talk around it, but no big deal. I had a really interesting slide kind of showing a map of Old Town, and I think most of us have seen this because it was emailed to us. These red areas that are on the screen are showing dirt lots, closed businesses, empty buildings, projects that are on hold, and shops that are just month-to-month leases in our downtown area. Just take a look at that dead space in our downtown. I can't get over it. We say we want to save our old town, but obviously we're not succeeding. This map shows a city that's not succeeding. It actually looks like it's failing to me. We've had a long trend of business closures and lots scrapped to dirt. If we actually do want to save the character of Old Town and the special shops, which we all say we want to, then we need to bring people and activity and investment into our downtown. This Kimsey project is a lifeline, as we heard from the people most impacted. The local merchants are literally begging us for it. I think council needs to fix our downtown. Do the residents and tourists of tomorrow want trinket shops and dentist offices and more dirt lots like this? What is our plan to put new businesses into these empty buildings? What is our plan to attract investors to rebuild our downtown? And how do we turn our downtown into a success story? We can't drive away great projects that bring people and businesses to our downtown. If we say no to the Kimsey, we are going to lose the tax revenues from a $150 million project. These are the taxes that fund our preserve, our amenities, our low property taxes, and all the things that we love about our city. As we've heard, the Kimsey is going to bring people to this historic area and to the galleries nearby. This feeds the character. It doesn't destroy it. This project will save businesses and create jobs downtown. This area is dying. If we want to save the downtown, we need to keep people coming in every day, residents and employees on a regular basis, not just during tourist season. Developers looking to invest here in Scottsdale are all looking at the Kimsey, as we know, to decide whether they're going to move forward or if they're going to move elsewhere. This will affect development for the next 5 years or more in our city. How many more dirt lots will we have added between now and then? Our downtown is not thriving. As we've heard, it's barely surviving. Let's build this project now and create a win for our city. Thank you.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a very difficult decision, but I will not be supporting this project tonight. This is exactly what citizens across the city who voted for us, the new council majority, want us to vote against. The vast majority of citizens do not want our old town destroyed by replacing it with an out-of-code, tall, dense building in the very heart of our city. It was shameful on the previous council's part to so ignore their wishes that citizens had to force a referendum twice when inappropriate buildings were proposed. Once was inside the preserve, and once, more recently, within downtown, was Southbridge 2. Are we so deaf that we still cannot hear them? Within a very short time frame, 17,000 citizens signed the Southbridge 2 referendum. They signed only because they care about Scottsdale's Old Town, its character, and its Western flavor. That is not something that other people in Scottsdale, from those who live in Old Town, don't care about. They do, and they proved it. Unlike many who signed the 100-plus strong petition that we received here tonight, they had no personal monetary interest here. If we pass this tonight, we will be telling them, our citizens, once again, we are not listening. A question: why do we even have height limits in our code if we just ignore them every time a developer requests more? Our codes have become merely the lowest starting point from which developers can go up. And that is what has happened here. This project, my friends, is the camel's nose under the tent. If we pass this tonight, there will be no stopping the destruction of our historical Old Town and all that it holds, which brings tourists here to visit. Developers will be falling all over themselves to tear it down and then build it up. Way up. To quote from one of the emails I received from a resident, the Kimsey proposal is a test case that has wide-ranging implications for the future, including the new general plan. This issue is much more important to Scottsdale voters and to historic Old Town than any other particular project proposal, because in the November elections, once again, voters called for a clear change in the direction of Scottsdale City Hall. This is our first test. By failing them here tonight on something they believe we had promised, why would they believe us when they say, vote for the general plan? It's a great one, and we, of course, have your best interests at heart. Would you believe us? I would not. So now again, we have an oversized, tall building proposed for Old Town. It will cut the sight lines of Camelback Mountain in many places, further clog our narrow streets, and strain our limited and old infrastructure. To quote from another email, please don't embarrass our city again by forcing us to have yet another referendum to reverse another zoning action like we had to do with Southbridge 2 referendum recently. To judge from past history, I would not take that threat too lightly. But while I don't take the possibility of a referendum too much at heart with this, I do believe our citizens will be watching tonight to see if we practice what we preach and if we hold true to our promises to them. No one said in this campaign that this would be easy. It's not. But we do know what we promised citizens in our elections. And we also know what the citizens want and expect from us in return for their trust and their vote. To the developer, build this to 36 feet, the allowed height in our code. I'll give you 4 feet mechanical, but I cannot agree to more than double the allowed height at this location. It would not look, nor would it be, appropriate with the surrounding areas. Putting aside everything else, I will not vote against the 17,000 Scottsdale citizens from all areas of the city who told us, loud and clear, that they did not want high, dense buildings in our downtown. They couldn't have been any clearer. I promise to be their voice on council, and against what we know from the Southbridge 2 referendum, if nothing else, people across the entire city do not want this kind of additional height in Old Town, and I won't betray them. I'm sorry.
Next, Vice Mayor Janik, then Councilwoman Whitehead and Councilmember Durham.
My position on the Kimsey is based on extensive input from the community from all sides of the spectrum. This project has undergone extensive negotiations to reduce height, density, and incorporate our city goals of walkability and sustainability in design. It is also truly the first project that adds a significant benefit with the preservation of the historic Haver building. The Kimsey is not about the developers who profit from their projects, nor the lawyers that represent them. It is about the heart of the city, which is on life support. And this was true even before COVID. There are too many empty stores, too many revolving doors where tenants move in for 6 months only to move out after spending their investment and their money for naught. There are too many empty sidewalks because residents are concerned about their safety. For me, it is about the fellow citizens who live and work in this part of town, and they love their city. Many have been here 10, 20, over 20 years. They've put in countless hours and financial support for their businesses and livelihood. Now it is time to revive the heart of the city before it's lost. The Kimsey will be the lifeline that moves the neighborhood forward with much-needed customers and pedestrian traffic. It is the rescue that we need now so that we keep the charm of the small businesses that give us our unique draw from domestic and international travel. I believe this project is in the best interest of Scottsdale, and I support it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I won't repeat a lot of what has been said. I want to talk just about what unites us. And what I've heard from everybody in the city is that they want to protect and preserve what is special about Scottsdale. And I'll tell you what that is. It's the unique local stores and restaurants. That is what makes Scottsdale special. That is the allure of our city. And those are the people who are not going to make it. If we have empty buildings that are 36 feet, as we have right now in the heart of Scottsdale, we will lose our place as an international destination. Another thing that I think city councils across the country are all saying is that they absolutely want to champion local businesses, because local businesses, again, are what differentiate one city from another. So we have 110 local businesses that have come to us in support of this project, and we're going to tell them no, and we're going to tell them that we know better. Not me. I'm going to support my local businesses because I know that they are the experts, just as we had experts that helped us create the preserve or helped us decide to build Mustang Library. These businesses that have invested their lives in downtown know best, and they support this project. They want to create a neighborhood, don't we all? As I think Councilwoman Janik said, we want to have a livable, walkable neighborhood. That's in the general plan. Well, guess what's missing, folks? Residents. There are no residents. There are no planned residents. There's nothing in the pipeline for this area. These people, many of them who do live there, need some neighbors, and this project provides that. And I want to talk about height, too. The time to discuss 36 feet of height was 2018. When the city council, which included my friends and colleagues, Councilwoman Littlefield and Millhaven, the city council in 2018 unanimously voted to approve a height of 66 feet, not 36 feet, 66 feet in this quadrant, and up to 150 feet. So the time to discuss height was then, not now. We're not going to put that genie back in the bottle. But what we can do is make sure that this area thrives so that the individual property owners of the unique, narrow lots along Craftsman Court and other streets in the quadrant are confident in their profitability and invest and actually protect those 36-foot and lower properties. So that's what I'm doing when I'm voting in favor of this project. First, I'm championing our local businesses. I'm investing in an area that is dying, and I want it to be vibrant and walkable. And I'm seeing the proposals. We are protecting many of the significant buildings that are low rise by allowing the area to survive. So I'm very enthusiastic about this, and I'm about the Kimsey proposal, and I am going to support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Durham.
I think we all recognize that this is a very important project, so I'm going to explain my reasons in some detail. I will be supporting this project and voting for this project. And the principal reason for my support is that the Old Town area desperately needs more residents living there 24 hours a day. And I believe this before the Kimsey project came to the fore. In my conversations with local residents and business owners, only intensified my belief. If you haven't walked this area lately, you should. You'll see many boarded up storefronts. Over the last 6 years, I've seen a marked decline in this area. One of our favorite stores on Marshall Way closed up several years ago, and it was one of our favorite places to find gifts, and it's no longer there. Many smaller merchants have already left, and those that remain are having a hard time hanging on. There's a high turnover in leases, and I've spoken to many of the businesses in this area, and we've heard many of them on the comments tonight. While we have many tourists in the area around Fifth Avenue and the canal, my observations tell me that much of this foot traffic does not move south beyond Fifth Avenue or west beyond Scottsdale. It simply doesn't penetrate to the interior of this quadrant. If you find yourself at the intersection of Craftsman and Court and 3rd Avenue, you're probably a tourist who is lost because there's no reason why anyone would want to go there. So the solution to this problem is to bring more residents to the area. It might not be the complete solution, but Old Town will not thrive and recover without more foot traffic and higher-end shops that depend on permanent residents. Now, as many people have reminded me, the current zoning for this spot is 36 feet. If my understanding is correct, I think it was given that zoning in 1951, which is 70 years ago. And I take zoning restrictions very seriously. They represent the considered judgment of the city and its citizens at some point in time about how the city ought to look. And those zoning rules should not be thrown aside lightly and shouldn't be changed absent very good reasons. But I think we have a good reason here. The zoning requested here is for a planned block development. And one of the purposes of this type of zoning is to create a 24-hour community downtown. And I think this type of zoning is appropriate. The general plan and the character area plan both call for residents in this area, but we don't have any right now, or we don't have very many. So I think this is completely consistent with the general plan and the character area plan. Now, during the recent campaign, I stated that I was in favor of smart growth, or what I called thoughtful growth. And what did I mean by that? First, I meant that not all projects get automatically approved. Tonight, we've heard from a number of people who have never seen a project they didn't like, and frankly, I don't listen to their comments that much. The key to me in every case is what's in the best interest of Scottsdale. And that requires considering many factors. For me, these include what type of use is being offered. Is that use good for Scottsdale? Is the proposed location a good location for that type of use? Does the project meet Scottsdale's high standards of design? Does the project promote or detract from the character of Scottsdale? Are the citizens in favor of it? In my view, this project passes all those tests. I've already explained my belief that this area needs more residents. The projects are likely to create a pedestrian pathway up and down Craftsman Court and Marshall Way, thereby bringing activity further south. And the pedestrian path also will create needed foot traffic down to Indian School. So it's a good location for this use. And is this the right place for this type of project? I think it is. As I just mentioned, it'll bring traffic farther south from Fifth Avenue. And this area does not present the best of Old Town, to say the least. It is not quaint. It is not Western. I would urge anyone concerned with this project to walk the area around the intersection of Craftsman Court and 3rd Avenue. It's a dead zone. And something I've discovered over the last month or two is there's always a lot of concern about parking in Scottsdale. But if you want to find parking, go to 3rd Avenue, because no one ever goes there, and you'll find plenty of parking spaces. And the buildings on this site do not contribute to the character of Scottsdale. In fact, they detract from it. The venue has been closed for some time, and the Howard Johnson Hotel does not show Scottsdale at its best. Now, there's been a lot of talk about whether this is a reincarnation of some of the prior projects, and if it were, I wouldn't be voting for it. The design of this project is better than some of the recent proposals. It includes required step-backs along Indian School Road, so there won't be a vertical wall along Indian School Road. These step-backs will provide better sight lines. The zoning requires balconies and patios, so there will be life and activity along the front of the building. And the building offers a mix of material to increase interest. Some of the recent projects I've criticized for blocking access to the canal, featuring long massed buildings with vertical walls devoid of architectural interest. And none of those problems are presented in this project. So next I want to talk about height. The plan block development rules allow height up to 66 feet to the roof line. And the applicant here is requesting an application of the bonus provisions. The bonus requested is, I believe, 6 feet or about half a story up to 70 feet to the roof line. I've criticized the use of bonus provisions in the past, and I've even claimed that they're handed out like Halloween candy. Everybody gets one. But I think for the first time that I've seen, the application of the bonus provisions is warranted here for 2 reasons. First, the requested bonus is only 6 feet, less than 10% of the total height or about half of a story. Second, this project actually does present important public benefits. Most notable is the protection of the Haver Building, and second is the pedestrian gateway from 3rd Avenue to Indian School Road. Will this building obstruct views? Not really. I've walked up and down this area, and for most of the length of Indian School Road, you can't see Camelback Mountain. At the intersection of Scottsdale and Indian School, you can get a glimpse of the tip of Camelback Mountain, which will probably be lost if this project is built. And that's a fact that I've taken into consideration in thinking this over. These buildings will have a maximum height of 72 feet to the roof line. This is less than 1/2 the height of the Marquee, 1/2 the height of South Bridge 2, and 1/2 the height of the collection. Buildings in the surrounding area can go up to 36 feet, and the adjacent building to the east is that full 36 feet. I think a 2-to-1 ratio of height to the surrounding buildings is not out of line for a project which will offer the benefits of this. Now, some people have suggested that the developers here asked for 96 feet, hoping to get 72 feet. But that doesn't reflect the pattern of the past. In the past, the developers had never been shy for asking about every inch of the bonus height, and until now, they've always received it, even when their projects did not provide any particular benefit. So the voters did vote for a change last November, and they're getting it. We are not giving every inch of the bonus heights the way it's worked in the past. What about the effect on the character of Scottsdale? This building is on the south edge of the quadrant bounded by Scottsdale, Indian Bend, the canal, and Goldwater. So it's outside on the outside rim of this area. Is it higher than I would like? Yes, it probably is. It's not perfect, but it reflects a significant compromise from the original project. And I don't get to control who offers projects and where they offer them. Nobody's lining up to build a 36-foot building here. And frankly, if it was a 36-foot, another block of big apartments, I'm not sure I would really want that. I'd also like to emphasize one feature which has been negotiated by Councilmember Whitehead. Some prior development agreements have very long terms, and we have one development agreement which has absolutely no term at all. It extends into infinity as far as I can tell, and that leaves the city at the mercy of developers who are subject to those development agreements. But Councilmember Whitehead has asked for a 5-year term in this agreement, and if the developers don't begin construction within that term, the zoning of the property reverts to the current zoning, and the Kimsey building continues to receive protection. On the issue of parking, as I understand it, this project provides more parking than the recently proposed revisions to the parking code. Parking is probably more an art of it than it is a science, and I think the parking is adequate here. And also, this project has agreed to prohibit short-term rentals of its units. And finally, I'd like to speak on the role of public opinion. Some of the people in this area have claimed that the residents of North Scottsdale or other people should have no say in what happens in this area. And I think even one of the commenters tonight said the same thing, that only the people who live down in that area get a say in what goes on. And I fundamentally disagree with that. Everyone who lives in Scottsdale gets to have a say in maintaining the character. And that includes this area, which is presents the definition of our unique character. But I believe the people who live in the immediate area of a project should have a strong voice for 2 reasons. First, they have the best knowledge of what's needed in a particular area. And second, they have the most at stake in terms of their livelihood and investment. The people who live and work in this area have given compelling reasons why this is the right project. And finally, some people have claimed that this building creates a precedent for the future. And I can assure you it does not, at least in my view. It's a particular building which meets a particular need at a particular location and provides important public benefits. So not every project will replicate that combination. And so for that reason, I will be supporting the project. Thank you, Mayor Ortega.
Thank you. Scottsdale has always been the intersection of talent and investment. So if you look at Ralph Haver, he was a very talented architect, and the investment that came with it really put the Kimsey building from the Kimsey family in Scottsdale. What we're dealing with today is the same thing, where talent and investment chooses to go to downtown, Old Town Scottsdale. For me, it's always a balance. The balance when we can have a point of pride, whatever development comes, and the type of investment that is worthy of Scottsdale is certainly retaining part of its history. If I told you one of the speakers tonight was a babysitter of our children, okay, and she's a young person and she's really excited about Haver and that part of Scottsdale's history. So what we can do is realize that even that building was on the verge of probably one electrical fire away from being destroyed. But the other area buildings also had a shelf life. And when I look at the need for investment, we're looking at a blighted building. We're looking at a blighted situation where I do want, we've talked about the core of Scottsdale, needing the connectivity from Old Town to Fifth Avenue and some scale to go with it that would reinforce that. I think anyone walking towards that area and towards that building would kind of turn around and wouldn't continue that pathway. So I think that's where architect and planning decisions have to improve our walkability and certainly the create a point of pride. So we do have a contrast, and we always have to have a balance with our decisions. I think that the precedent that we're setting is that, I pushed back on that height, hitting 100 feet. I pushed back and told them, stop with the bonuses. It's not like candy, and it's not something that's just given out and bartered away. That made them, I believe, pull back from excessive height that was the Achilles heel of other projects that were way, way past pushing the envelope. If we reference Southbridge, I would say that was the best example of the worst thing to do. In many cases, that project was only 100 feet deep, and they wanted 160 feet of height. This one's 400 feet deep, so that gives them a lot more latitude to meeting the aesthetics and room without blocking the canal as well. So the other point that I would make is that we do welcome investment. I believe I have pushed back, and our council will push back on the excesses that would blot out and not respect some of the areas that I call the core of Scottsdale. One of the situations is that when people do come here with our reputation, we don't want them to go away disappointed. Old Town is not about national brand stores. It's not about large anchor stores. You leave that to Fashion Square, right? They follow that corporate model. And that corporate model actually doesn't work in Old Town Scottsdale. Some people say that's a handicap. Why aren't Foot Locker and all these other national brands there. It's because they're locked into deals on the corporate side. And probably people coming here would not speak of a Fashion Square as in the same way that they know of Old Town. We can support a balance, and that is important. I have been involved in dozens of rebuilds in Scottsdale that were successful to 2 stories, and they had a different clientele and a character to them, which is part of the appreciation that people have discussed. The voices that I heard of small business people is significant. That's the character that's excluded, let's say, from a brand store, a national account, an account that could come and go or be sold on the stock market. So we do put stock in Scottsdale. We have that direct interest. I think the word should go out that bonuses are the exception. I believe I heard the applicants say they were going to keep it at 75 feet, not 76. I believe the appurtenances, these things were not in the motion that was made and seconded. But at the same time, I'm going to hold those applicants to that, because that's the actual intent that drew me to come to the conclusion that the price we are paying by eliminating the nuisance buildings that are there. Some of the buildings are pretty scary and tattered, and I believe that as we emerge from the COVID situation, that there will be a lot of infill and more businesses coming back into the empty storefronts. So I do not accuse those empty situations. There's been a lot of heartbreak over longtime store owners that were crippled and lost their life savings because of COVID and all the ramifications of that. So this is an important investment. For that, I will support the motion, but I expect nothing but quality and performance. So with that, I see no other comments from council. I will call for a vote, and so note. Thank you. At this Excuse me. At this point, we have concluded with the agenda items, but I will ask for if there are any council items tonight, and if not, then I would adjourn our regular council meeting, and we will be taking 10 minutes and coming back for our work study and continue with our work here at City Hall.
Do you need a motion to adjourn? I make a motion to adjourn.
Well, we will move to adjourn in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.